really excited to talk to you guys this week. There's so much still going on. Okay, looks like we're good now, also on Facebook. Great. And I want to introduce to you Chella. She's our amazing program manager at Suraflow. Hi, Chella.
Hi, Sarah. Hi, everyone.
How are you doing in all of this?
Well, to be honest, I think I'm doing okay. I'm used to living in isolation. So,
Yeah, I think for us introverts, we're like, what isolation? I mean, it's
yeah.
not really that different from what we're typically used to.
hmm Definitely some shifts going on for sure.
Mhm.
Trying to be very careful and stay healthy and, you know, do everything we can to protect our families and ourselves. But as far as social distancing, I do that all the time. So,
Yes, and I think anybody who is more of an introvert and on the spiritual path naturally feels inclined towards that kind of lifestyle. I think too, working online promotes that kind of lifestyle as well. Why is that? Why is that? It's
you're
just a
asking me?
question I'm putting out. Yeah, you can
Okay.
answer, but I mean, I want you to think about it because I'm assuming too that the people who are listening also resonate with this quieter lifestyle
hmm
and, being in our own space.
Yeah, I mean, I think from experience, just working from home, you're just naturally more at home and you're more, your workspace and your home space are kind of the same place typically.
Mhm.
So you're just not leaving quite as often. But I suppose it's maybe on an individual basis. But I personally really like that. I like being able to, be within my container and create within my container and to be able to just get to work whenever I need to and have that
Mhm.
space available to me. I really like having that.
Yes, and I do too. I feel more tapped into my creativity and my authentic self. I feel like when I'm going into a place, having to go through a big commute, being on the freeway or on the subway, and then showing up at work where there's a lot of people and maybe some office politics, and you can kind of get mixed up in that, and in a sense, lose touch with that core authentic self. So thanks for sharing, Chella. I'm going to bring Chella back on. I just wanted to share with you too about how I got started working online. And this is a question that a lot of people ask me almost daily, not just people from the community, but also my friends. They want to know how I work online, how I got started online, and how I created a successful meditation coaching business online. So I'm going to just start with a little bit of my story. And I think it really begins with my backstory, which most of you know. I used to work in corporate. I worked on Wall Street. I invested in tech companies. And I left that because I wanted to pursue meditation study. And that was something I just wanted to do for myself. It wasn't something I intended to teach. It just had really saved my life. I would say saved my soul. And so I left corporate. I traveled to Asia, mostly through India, to deepen my practice and my understanding of meditation. And then I came back. I felt called to be in Los Angeles. I was sitting on a beach in Thailand, sipping on a coconut. I remember this moment distinctly. And I heard a voice, and the voice was calling my name. It said, Surah, Surah, it's time to go back. It's time to go back. And I was thinking, are you kidding me? I love traveling. I love this lifestyle. It was something that after being on the road and backpacking for about a year and a half, I still wanted to keep living that way. There was so much more to see and learn. And I received this very specific message to go back and to teach what I had learned. And when I heard this, I thought, oh, this is crazy. Like, there's nothing for me to teach. I don't know what to teach. All I had learned was yoga. I had learned meditation. I had learned about healing and Reiki healing, but I had no intention of teaching. But I received this very specific direction. And sometimes you might experience this too when you deepen your practice. At least for me, I receive very specific messages. And these messages are often highly accurate and lead me in a direction that creates a lot of expansion, acceleration, or synchronicity. So I've learned to trust these subtle voices or these messages that I feel from within. And I went back to LA and I started um, automatically teaching. And it started with yoga. And again, I didn't even see myself as a teacher, but it just kind of all fell together very easily, which was teaching yoga, eventually teaching meditation. And I also started an executive coaching practice. So I'm in LA. All these things are being created. And this is what I'm noticing. I'm exhausted. I am teaching classes, some classes that are small to big. If I want to teach a class and it's only 4 miles away in Los Angeles, it could take an hour of traffic just to get there. And then it takes me 15 to 20 minutes to get set up. And then the class might be an hour and a half. And then everybody wants to talk after that. That takes another 45 minutes. So there goes 3 or 4 hours of my whole day towards teaching 1 hour of yoga class that might have paid $45, $65, something in that range. And then times that times the amount of classes I was teaching, anywhere from 1 class a week to 10 classes a week, depending on what my schedule was. So there was that component of driving around, driving through traffic, um, not really having extra energy to do the things that I really wanted to do, having a lot of creativity, but feeling drained. And then also meeting with my individual clients where I shared a psychotherapy office. And there it was also something similar where I was commuting, I go see somebody, I'd feel pretty complete. For me, just 1 or 2 sessions a day, I felt maxed out at that. And seeing executive clients, it's, there's a lot of energy and focus that goes into that. And to be sitting in that energy for 3 4 hours is a lot for somebody who is sensitive. So I knew after a couple of years of that I thought to myself, wow, I used to make so much money, a ridiculous amount of money for working maybe 1 or 2 hours a day. And here I was working all hours of the day and making very much less money, just maybe like a quarter, less than a quarter. And then feeling really exhausted and burned out from that way of life. And no matter what I did, no matter how much time I spent in nature or went to the beach, it was just really hard to recharge myself living in that environment. And I knew something needed to change. I didn't know what, but I decided to leave all of that altogether, the classes, the practice, everything, to go into retreat. And I spent quite a few years in personal retreat. During that time, I still did teach, and I started teaching by the request of people through teleconference. I started with freeconferencing.com. So that was over 10 years ago. That's the whole backstory, is that I started, teaching and going into this amazing healing work that I felt called to and that I really loved, but I felt so tapped out by it. And I knew I wouldn't be able to really sustain a real lifestyle, and also do this work at the same time. I really wanted to know, how can I give from a full cup? How can I give from a balanced, more centered place? And then it wasn't until I started teaching through freeconferencing.com and working in groups, and more consistently working in groups, that I found that it was incredibly um, energizing, that I really loved it, because I was teaching people the tools. I was giving them the tools directly. So it started over 10 years ago. And then when I went into retreat and I came out, I had this vision of um, teaching online. And it was even, I don't, maybe it was like 4 or 5 years ago, I started doing that, and people thought it was strange. And they questioned um, what that was about. They said, really, you teach online? How do people learn online? And there was a lot of skepticism, there was doubt. People thought that it was a lesser way of teaching, that it wasn't as valid because you're not really being with people. But I began to notice that by hosting sessions online, working with people online, the energy was so much easier. It was more peaceful. It was seamless. People weren't there just trying to be in my energy. They were there to really work on themselves. And when we were complete, I could just close down the application and close my laptop, and I was back in my own space again. I didn't have to navigate all these other energies, sit in traffic, be through a commute, all this other stuff just to be working with people and exchanging with them. There was a real seamless way to connect. And that's what started to inspire me to go online. Now, when I had this idea, it was just an idea, and it was a naive idea, because I thought, oh, I can start with meditation courses and have these courses and continue to just sell them and share them. And um, I had no idea what I was getting into. And during that time, I was ready to leave a more reclusive life to come out and start teaching, even if it was online. I thought to myself, it would help if I had some business backing. It would help if I had some kind of investment or capital to work with to get this all started. And synchronicity, you know, the moment I had that thought, a week later, I was approached by someone who said, whatever you're doing, I want to be part of it. Whatever you need, I'm willing to give it. And that person became our angel investor for our business, which I'm so grateful for, because it really got us jump started. It gave me the freedom and flexibility to play and to see what's going to work here. How do you navigate the online space? And I started with a lot of enthusiasm and naivety and ambition. And I soon found, going into it, month one, month two, month three, now I'm in month 12, having not made a penny from it or gotten any traction from that whatsoever. One of the biggest challenges I had was just figuring out, how does this work? Everybody talks about making a living online and making all this money, and reaching a lot of people, having impact, having influence. And yet it was really hard for me just to find one good person to collaborate with, in terms of somebody who could work with me on my team. So that was one of the biggest hurdles I had to jump, was just finding good people, people who knew that what they were doing and who knew about the online market. And it isn't as simple as having a great idea and being excited and thinking, this is just what I'm going to put online and give it to the world. The world needs to know who you are and how to find you. That's a really big part of it. And you actually do need a strategy. It's not just, I'm going to come up with these great ideas, I'm really creative. And you need a dedicated, sound strategy that is simple, that's focused, and one that you're willing to commit to. So that's a little bit about my backstory. Fast forward to now, we have an incredible team of 3 core people on our team. Chella, she is our program manager and creative business developer. And also Raju, who is our online marketing manager. And he is really gifted in creating Google ads and marketing and SEO, things like that, that I had no idea about. I mean, I literally came out of retreat, I didn't know what a hashtag was. And that was, for, I would say, maybe 5 years ago. I was just really overwhelmed by the online world, because I had been out of it for a long time. And Chella and Radu have really gotten me up to speed with learning these platforms and these applications, how to integrate them, make them more seamless so that when people come and they want to learn about meditation, if they want to engage in our programs, it's easy for them to understand um, what we do, who we are, and what we can help them with, what we have to offer. So, those are some very simple things that need to be communicated in a really clear way when you have an online presence. So, we have done very well with our trainings. Um, Liberate is our flagship training, which is our meditation teacher training course. And we did well from the first year. And the way I started that program is I actually first sold the program before I created it. So I'm going to share a lot more about how I built things up, a lot through trial and error and a lot of pain and frustration. I approached everything in my business as a spiritual practice. So every day when I started the business, it felt like there was an earthquake. Um, and it still feels like that sometimes, where you just don't know, there's so many things going on. There's uncertainty. You don't know what you're doing. You're having to learn something all over or brand new. And it's taking up now 2 or 3 hours of your day. But at the same time, it's incredibly rewarding. It's so rewarding once you get that set up, once it's built. It goes on its own. You can create a system that goes on its own, and then you can work from anywhere. You can travel anywhere. You can create your own schedule. You can create it around what's important to you, what you love. You can spend more time with your loved ones, less time in the grind and something that you don't really feel passionate about. I love what I do so much. Um, and I want to share it with you. I want to share with you how you can create that for yourself. I think this is a trend that will continue, which is the trend of working online and not being bound by your time, your actual hours that you put into a day, and not being bound by a specific place or a specific company or an organization, that you can create that on your own from scratch and just start where you are. You don't even need to have a big startup capital base or anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and pause there and open this up for any questions. We only have about 10 more minutes. And Chella, are you there? I'd like to bring Chella on. Hi there. And see
Hi.
if people have questions. I know people have been commenting or asking questions maybe through um, Flow Live. I have my Facebook page up.
Oh,
Um,
okay. I
but do
don't
you
have
have any
Flow Live.
questions or comments? Anybody who is with us?
I'm gonna head into the Flow Live group, just see if
I'm going to,
anybody's
on
coming up.
Thursday, talk more about how to generate income and more into the logistics. But today, I just wanted to share my story of how I got started online. And again, I really love it because it's clean. When you work with people online, it's just clean energy. You're not entangled. You're not having to pull your energy in all these different directions because you're having to pay rent somewhere, you go through traffic, spend all this extra energy just to do what you love. It's just you open your laptop and boom, there you are. It's intimate. You can work with people in a really deep way. It's effective. And it's, for me, what I found really rejuvenating to my energy. Instead of being draining, I feel energized by this work. And I love scaling this work. I love recording things, repurposing them, resharing them. There's so many different ways that you can go online, so many different multiple revenue streams that you can create as well. So any questions or comments from people in the group? I do see we have some people here on Zoom and also watching live through Facebook. Shilpa, I think you've been commenting. If you don't mind commenting in the Zoom platform, that would be great. I'm so sorry we've missed some of your comments and your questions.
It looks like, I don't know why, but Shilpa wrote a comment, but I'm not able to see it for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
I'll try refreshing and see if that helps.
And Chella, would you like to maybe share if we're waiting for people to comment or ask questions?
Oh, sure. Okay. Well, actually,
What it was
Shilpa
like? Mhm.
has a question. She just wanted to know if you could share more about the different revenue streams. So that I think you're going to go on to on Thursday, but if you
Mhm.
feel called to say something now.
Yeah, I would say I'll go into it Thursday, but there's so many different ways that you can make money. You can create products and sell them online. So whether they're courses or products, they can be live or pre-recorded, or you could do live and recorded, as in stream it live, save it, reproduce it, and then sell it. So there's those ways. You can have a subscription-based model where people pay $30 a month to have access to you within a group, or you can do individual contracts and agreements where people engage in an agreement with you, a coaching agreement, and then you can do that all online through Zoom, and make those agreements. Typically, we do them 3 to 6 months at a time. You can do what we did, which is offer trainings. And so, what we do is our approach is to offer these high end premium trainings. We don't need a lot of people, but we work with people intensively and we work with them in a really deep, intentional way. And that's the way I prefer to work with people. I don't prefer to have, I don't need to have a lot of followers. I don't need to, um, you know, have that kind of, I guess, background noise. I like to work with people in very um, intentional, focused way, and people who want to go deep, because that feels good for me too as a practitioner. People who are serious about their practice and who are serious about healing. I think that's something I look for. Any other questions or comments? Thanks for asking that, Shilpa. And again, I'll go into some of the logistics on Thursday. I do want to mention now too, we are going to put together a more formal webinar. And Chella, maybe you can put the link there for them from the blog,
Yeah,
which is, it's
absolutely.
called Take Your Work Online and Expand Your Business. And this is a more formal webinar, a structured one where you'll receive guidance on how to actually take your passion or your purpose and start to structure it to bring it online. And it also includes a comprehensive training video about how to use Zoom. Zoom is an amazing platform. People use it a lot, but there are some logistics and ways that you can use this platform to really optimize your work. For example, the difference between a Zoom room and the difference with that versus a webinar. And we're going to go through really basic concepts and how you can use Zoom to optimize what you want to do and what you want to create. And Chella did put some links there, and maybe we could put that too in the Facebook as well.
Yes, I
That
just
would
did.
be great. Okay, thank you. And we have about 6 more minutes, so I'd love to hear from you. If we have some people on Zoom who want to come on, you're welcome to. Um, and Chella, if you want to share a little bit about you and your story and how you came to Suraflow, maybe that would be interesting for people to hear.
Sure, I can try and make that a really short one. Well, as synchronicity would have it, I actually found Sarah almost a year before I joined the course. And it was in the back of my mind. I just thought to myself, I wonder if there's such a thing as meditation coaching. And that was how I found you. And I also found you on YouTube by accident as well, in a totally different search for life coaching. So universe wanted me to find you. I found you. Um, and I went through the course, and that was an amazing experience for me. And it was actually, I have to say that I'm really grateful that you saw me as being a potential team member, because I actually had no experience at all. As far as online business, it was all just a pipe dream to me. I had no idea. And Sarah actually connected with me and she said, you know, I just have this feeling we're going to work together, so we should do that. I was like, okay,
I
I'm
had
into
that
that.
feeling from the moment I met Chella. Just her pure heart. really that, and her creativity, her sense of creativity. But go ahead, Chella.
Yeah, no, it was just really fun to just basically go from ground zero. I had no idea what I was doing, to learning all of the different things that you need to learn to run an online business. And at first, I have to admit, I was relatively overwhelmed. I thought there's so much information out there. I don't know where to start. I don't know how we're going to do this. But I like to study, I like to research. So I was able to basically create these systems that we now use to run the business. And I feel really grateful not only to have kind of figured it out, but also that, we have a chance to now share that with people, because it took me like 2 years of my personal time to do that. So now it's there, and there is a system, there's a way to do it. And obviously there's different ways to do it, but it's worked really well for us. And I don't know, I'm just really grateful that I had the experience. I don't think I would have sought it out personally if you hadn't approached me, Sarah. But now
I
I
want to say
feel
too, from the experience of just working with Chella, she did come in just like, wow, like this is crazy. Like it was a lot to take in, because the complexity of being online and running different tech platforms, it's a lot. So just to even learn that was like, for me to learn Zoom, for example, there's a learning curve that's there. But I want to just, when Chella came on, her curve was like this. She just went from zero to, and literally she's a creative genius. She can figure out anything. She has her level of knowledge now of being online, her skill. She actually tells the companies we work with how to improve their platforms now. I mean, her skill
love you.
is so high. She's been able to figure out from nothing to now, like, what actually creates revenue online. It's amazing. And I just want you to know, we've learned how to do it. We know that if we learned how to do it, anybody can learn how to do it. And
Exactly.
hopefully you don't have to go through the same bumps and, obstacles that we had to go through, because we were learning by trial and error. There was no set way. Nobody was really teaching, even though there's all those online programs. I do see them.
Mm-hmm.
Chella and I are very well aware of them. They didn't really provide the knowledge, and nothing near what was helpful for us, because we're basically a service industry. It's different when you're sharing meditation and teaching meditation or providing healing services
Yes.
than, for example, providing a product or something that's more tangible, like, maybe cooking classes or something like that, where people can really wrap their mind around what that is. So in terms of marketing and sharing, it's a whole different ball game, and we had to start that all over from scratch. And we want to share with you, if you're somebody who's an individual, maybe you're a small business or a medium-sized business or a practitioner, some of the things that we learned along the way. So there's that little spiel. Let's see. We have some more people on. I'm just going to see if my next appointment is waiting for me. I don't
It's
see
pretty
her.
soon.
It is pretty soon. I have another podcast. So I'm just going to wait for her and be on here until she contacts me.
Okay.
So,
So Shilpa actually had a question. I
mhm.
just wanted to address this because it's a great question. She wants to know if we do cover some of this stuff in Liberate. And we actually do. So we have a module that's completely dedicated to creating a meditation coaching business specifically, and also the steps that you need to take to get really clear on who it is that you're helping and how to share that message so that other people can find you. Because like Sarah was mentioning earlier, in the beginning you get super excited and you're ready to do it, but then why is no one finding me? How come no one's coming to my, knocking on my screen? I'm like, door? How do I say that? Trying to get these services from me. But it's not that you don't have a great gift or a great offering or anything like that. It's that you just got to make sure that people can find you. So we have a whole module on how to do that and the basic steps that you cannot skip. They're the most important fundamental steps that you need. So to answer your question, Shilpa, yes, we do have that in there. We also have a business toolkit, which has a number of resources that you can use to get started in your business as well.
And that's really comprehensive. It's everything from creating a business plan to copywriting to marketing online. It's huge. But we really suggest that people take it step by step. So we make it as simple as possible. And it's really starting with the simple steps. What I did find when I did trainings, whether they were yoga training, life coach training, healing trainings, none of them provided how to actually launch and be successful as a practitioner. And I felt that that had some level of, I guess, irresponsibility, is that, you know, you're given, you know, this knowledge and you tap into your gifts, but nobody shows you how to keep sharing those gifts in a sustainable way. Because people don't really realize that if you're going to become a coach, or if you're going to be a teacher or a practitioner, that you're also agreeing to become an entrepreneur. That's part of what comes with that in our century. You know,
Yes.
that's, you know, back in the day, in the ancient times, 5,000 years ago, and in some cultures today, they recognize that shamans, wise people, healers, they needed to have this support. So they were always supported by their community, tribal medicine people. But today, we don't have that level of support. So that's a support that we need to receive from the community that we serve. And it's important to address these things. I think it's something that a lot of practitioners or people don't want to look at, which is money and business, along with the gifts and services. And I just want to reframe too that for us, like the way I see money, money is energy, it's a currency. And it is what I find in the work that I've done is that it is the gel or the glue that makes the healing really stick and to take place. Because what money represents for a lot of people in the West is an investment. It's an agreement of somebody's time and their energy and the level of energy that they're willing to put into their agreement or their service with you. And so when we stay in integrity with our pricing, I find that it brings a quality of people, a level of people that come into our training. It just, it helps create that accountability and that structure and the flow for what needs to take place. So there's nothing bad or wrong with money or generating a business online. I think that's one of the first hurdles, is getting over that stigma of, you know, charging for your work or saying this is what it is. We find that a lot of practitioners, healers, business people, creative people are shy about that component. And by being shy or maybe even ashamed about that, it creates that hindrance. It doesn't allow for the flow of your gifts to really be seen or recognized or received in the world. I hope that makes sense. I am still waiting for my next. I hope she can see that I added her. Chella, did you want to say a few things? I'm just going to go into my email and see if she.
Okay, sure. Yeah, there was what you were talking about. I had something I wanted to add to that, and now I feel like I might have lost it, but of course. I think it just, when it comes to, you know, and this is something that's common even outside of this industry, I think when people are wanting to share something that they feel really passionate about, there's this sort of, you know, in the background belief that if it makes you happy and it feels good, or if it's to help other people, that you should just do it, that there's no, you know, there shouldn't be any money exchange or anything like that. And so when you're first getting started, the tendency for a lot of people, and I mean, it's so common that we have to talk about it consistently, is that they feel that, you know, to do their best work, they shouldn't charge. But the point is, you're not going to be able to do your best work at all if you don't charge. And you, the more that you're willing to do that, the more space that you actually open up for you to offer what it is that you want to do, and you will be able to help more people ultimately.
Mhm.
So, you know, I can understand that mindset because I've struggled with it myself in the past as well. And even sometimes still, I have to tell myself, okay, in order for me to do this, in order for me to genuinely dedicate myself to this, I have to eat. I have to put, you know, I have to get a roof over my head. I have to take care of myself. And if I don't have the self-care and the just basic needs met, I can't help anybody, because I'm not even able to be fully with who I am. I'm not be able to take care of myself. So I think it's important to remember that to serve others, you also need to really have that sense of self-care before you could even take that next step, and to just be able to sustain what you're doing, you know, and do it. Maybe if it's full time that you want to do it, I mean, you got to be able to charge for that, or you're not going to have anything, you know,
Mhm.
to give. So
Mhm. It's a wise point. And what Chella says is true. People feel guilt and they feel shame with charging for things that they love and think should be free. Um, and so it's, you know, people feel that. And then what ends up happening is they want to do it for free. So they'll have a full-time job that they hate, come home, feel totally spent and exhausted, and think that they're going to do what they love on the side. And usually they don't have as much time and energy to even do what they love because they're in a completely lower vibration now. They're like in a completely different vibration. So it doesn't even allow them to be in the vibration to operate and live at their peak self, because they're having to compromise or betray themselves a whole part of their day in order to sustain, you know, quote unquote, doing what they love. A lot of people try that model too. And actually that model is something I do suggest. I mean, for people in the beginning, which is to try it first. Don't
yes.
jump off the ledge. No one has to do what I did and just leave your, you know, lucrative career. You don't have to take those big drastic steps, but just to get a taste of what that could be for you. And if you have structures or models that show you really how to do that, then you know, it's something to consider. But I won't cherry coat it. It's hard work. I mean, you got to get. I would say that honestly, bringing whatever you love online or into a business is a whole other level. It'll take you to a whole other level of the understanding of your practice, for example, the understanding of who you are, you know, what you're really made of, because it's going to bring up all your stuff. You know, when you
Hmm.
put yourself out there, it brings up all your stuff because we want to hide. You know, we don't want to be out there for people to judge us. We don't want people to misunderstand us or to think that we're this way or that way. So there's a lot of steps you go through. It's an initiatory process. It's a major initiation. It's another level of initiation when you want to really take something that you feel passionate about and share it with the world.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Um,
any other questions or comments before we start to close?
I
Or
don't
am I
see any
missing anything?
in on the page, but I have to go back to Flow Live and I'll just double check there,
Okay.
see if anything's
And Shilpa
missing.
says, I most definitely want to have my future services online, just a bit overwhelmed. I always feel what you say resonates. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think another thing I want to bring up is it's not just the business. It's not like, how do you do Zoom and then put it on to Facebook Live? You know, it's actually, there's emotional components. Like Chella mentioned, there are these unconscious blocks and beliefs that we have to work with, that we have to face in order to even get to the level of streaming on Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, Zoom will always be there and it'll always be this big, ambiguous, overwhelming idea of how to work with it, but you'll never face it because you haven't faced the first block, which is, am I willing to be seen and am I willing to be heard? So, really, what we also do is help you work with the psychology of bringing your business online, the psychology of putting yourself out there. That's a really huge component.
Mm-hmm. And to just add to what Shilpa had said about being overwhelmed, one thing I'd just like a little tiny tidbit, I suppose, is just in the beginning, at least this happened to me, there was this tendency to try and learn everything at once, do it all perfect, get the whole thing done before you launch anything, you know, months and months and months of your time trying to make it into, you know, a corporation or something where it's, you know, you've made it so big that you almost can't even do it because it just feels enormous. And it's really, honestly, the best thing to do in the beginning is just to keep it super simple. Like, what is the most basic thing you need to get started? And then you can, over time, continue to add things on top of that. So, you know, and just being able to do that just really allows you to kind of find your flow with it, and not get that sense of overwhelm where it really starts to weigh in on you, all the things you have to do. It's like, well, really all you need is a way for people to find you and a way for people to book you if you're there, if you're just starting out working with clients, for example. And usually it's a lot more simple than we make it out to be when we're trying to be, you know, and the perfectionism and all that stuff comes flying in. It's resistance, just saying. So just being aware of that.
Absolutely. And it really takes discipline to stay simple.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, guys, because everybody comes in with these entrepreneurial ideas, like a lot of creative ideas. And that's why, honestly, we see a lot of practitioners struggle so much. They struggle big time because they have 5 different business titles and they offer 5 different things, and nobody can remember 10 different things, right? They what they know is you, and that's all. You know, they don't need to know that you are flower essence massage therapist, NLP, you know, this and that. um, it's really just you at the end of the day, so you don't have to get hung up on so much of the titling and the words and the this and the that. But that's where we can get stuck. It's easy to get stuck there. So again, we're going to have a webinar that walks people through this process. It's on April 7th, and you can sign up through our blog, suraflow.org, and it'll walk you through the process of just getting started. And again, like Chella said, just keep it simple. Be willing to make mistakes and see it as a social experiment. Nothing's set in stone. You can always change it. You can always pivot. You can always choose something different. You're not married to it. And I think that's where people get, and you start holding, and it can feel complex because there's web development, there's ads, there's logarithms, it can be, and then having to integrate different tech systems. I mean, it can get intense, but the way we teach you is to go really basic and super simple as possible. And in fact, that's going to be better for the flow of your business.
Mm-hmm. And so you have enough energy to work with people as well.
Yeah, exactly. You don't you don't want to be like so in your left brain that you have
Mm-hmm.
nothing more left, and you got to work across both brains, the left brain and the right brain, the creative
Mm-hmm.
brain, the intuitive brain, plus the logical, logistical brain. So, well, this was a great talk to share with you. Any other questions or comments through Facebook or through Zoom? Thank you so much for participating. Let's see if there's anything more here.
I'm just going to check the Facebook page quick. Maybe if you can check to see.
Do you want me to check Flow Live or?
I just checked Flow Live, and then
Okay.
I'm going to check the page.
Okay. And any other questions on Zoom? Feel free to ask. Well, thank
We
you,
had a
guys.
comment. Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt you. We had a comment from Yuri, who just said it was great to know that that's included in the Liberate program. And also she asked one more question. Would you recommend Liberate students to start to join in on the April 7th workshop?
Oh, that's a really good question. Okay, so for full disclosure, we have, for people that have graduated from Liberate, we have a advanced level training that we host. It's called the Inner Circle, that includes a mastermind group. So that's only available to people who have already graduated from Liberate. And actually, this is an event that we're running, how do you say that, in tangent with the Inner Circle. So this is something that we're offering through Inner Circle. We've agreed to open this month up only for the webinar. So this is something that anybody is welcome to join, but if you're in Liberate, you're going to get this information in week 13. So unless you want to double up, what would you say, Chella? Unless you want to double up, I would wait. If you're in Liberate, just enjoy Liberate. Don't think ahead. You don't have to put the cart before the horse. Let yourself have your own process. And then, after you're done with your own training, then you can look at how to expand it online.
I have to agree. I think that it's good to kind of have, when you're going to the Liberate course, to kind of stay focused on the present of what you're going through and what the intention of that week is for the course. And this webinar is going to be a little bit farther ahead than where you need to be right now, and you will get there. I know sometimes the tendency is, I want to get there now and start today and do it now, but you will get there, and we will take you there in a very intentional way. So if you can hold off a little bit, you will get to learn all of this stuff as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So great question though, Yuri, of bringing that up. And again, I guess I want to close with that this is a really wonderful time to explore taking your work online. I think some people are being forced to work online now because of our situation with the pandemic of COVID-19. I'm sure that we'll have other future events that are similar to this as well. Something I want to mention is that our business has remained resilient and robust in spite of what has happened. We've actually had more people express interest in online training because now they have the time. They're not working, and they want to go deeper in their practice. So to consider, you don't have to take all your work online. You can actually, if you have a brick and mortar business, if you have a physical business, you can add an online presence, for example, or an online component. So you don't have to take it all and just switch it. There's a lot of things online that can help run a physical business seamlessly. So that's something to keep in mind, is that there are ways technology is there to help you. It can be a hindrance or it can be a facilitator. So think of it that way. And so no matter what you do, you don't have to do something in person or online. You can do both, and you can learn how to integrate it with anything that you want to do. So it's a really great option. It opens things up for you and for your family, and just to consider that as an option. All right. Thanks everyone for staying with us. It was nice to see this engagement with you all. If you enjoyed it, like and share, please. Leave some comments. We would love to hear from you. Also leave some questions. If there were any other questions, we'll answer them and address them on Thursday. So Thursday, join us for something that's a little bit more logistical. And we look forward to seeing you then. So it's 4 p.m. EST on Thursday, 1 p.m. PST. All right, everyone. Sending you lots of love. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Chella, for coming on. See you
Thanks,
Thursday. Bye.